Friends, the universe found its way home tonight in the form of Michigan State basketball winning the Big Ten championship. Let's go. All right, we don't have any trailer videos over here. This is super low tech and the production quality is dog shit, but that's fine because today we're just going to talk about why Michigan State basketball winning the Big Ten championship is a microcosm for the universe finding its way back to itself. Let's break it down. In every single tradition that's out there, and you could go one by one, we're talking about the Abrahamic faiths, the Vedic faiths, the spaghetti monster, whatever the hell you want to talk about, they all point to the exact same thing, which is the one splitting itself into the many to experience itself as the many through many different perspectives, and then ultimately finding its way back home to the one. And that's what the universe decided to do with Michigan State basketball. It wanted to go out into the wilderness of itself. It wanted to experience contrast. It wanted to experience what would it be like if I weren't on top? What would it be like if I struggled? What would it be like if I had to fight through adversity and obstacles to ultimately come back home to myself, to unity, to wholeness, to oneness, to the inherent success and joy that comes from just being the singularity, the source? What if I decided to experience something that would be the opposite of that, simply for the joy of coming back to that which I already am and already have been? Michigan State basketball is a great way to understand the journey of the entire universe. So take the Tom Izzo era, because we can go back to Judd and we can go back to Gus Ganakis, and Jesus, we really don't want to go back to Gus Ganakis, rest in peace. But we can go back to all these different eras and find how the universe expressed itself. But for today, let's just talk about how the universe expresses itself through the Tom Izzo era of Michigan State basketball. So the era starts off horribly. I'm talking bad. Couple of seasons to the not invited tournament, the NIT. Awful, terrible couple of years. People wanted Izzo gone. Year 3 comes around. And in year 3, the first couple of years, the first couple of games were terrible. I'm talking losing to Detroit. Mercy. There was no mercy in that loss. I mean, Jesus, that was horrible. University of Illinois. We're not talking the one in Champaign. We're talking about the one in Chicago, the one you needed a GPS to get to back then. There wasn't even GPS. UIC. Both of those losses at home. People wanted Izzo fired. And the universe said, this is great. This is great. I am now in the farthest reaches of my own creation. If wholeness and oneness and source is right here, then as the early Tom Izzo era of Spartan hoops, I've gone way the hell out here. I'm talking losing to teams nobody's ever even heard of. Now I'm going to begin the journey back home to myself. And the journey began in 1998 when a sophomore named Mateen Cleaves and a big-time recruit named Charlie Bell and a young guy named Andre Hudson and an absolute dog named Antonio Smith and another great player from Flint named Morris Peterson came together in this core and began the march back home. The climb of this program began, and the joy of the universe rediscovering its own brilliance, rediscovering its own magic began with those guys, a group of dudes called the Flintstones. Now, what made this group amazing was that it wasn't just their talent. And don't get me wrong, these guys were talented. A bunch of them went on to the NBA. These guys were talented. But there was something deeper that they had, which most of their opponents didn't, still don't. It's this desire to come back home to that base state of excellence, of dominance, of being the alpha apex manifestation of the sport itself. There was a deep desire of not just to participate, but to experience it at its very, very top. Mateen Cleaves came in with the idea of, I'm going to win a national championship. Now, if you had said that in the mid-90s to anybody else about Michigan State, you'd have been laughed out of the freaking room. It's like telling somebody today Vanderbilt football is going to win a national championship. They would laugh you out of the freaking room, and rightfully so at the time. But these guys came in and said, listen, we're going to do this. We're going to win a national championship here, which is the essence of source itself, exploding out into all these different manifestations and then coming home to the top. The national championship in college basketball, in any sport, is the apex representation of source energy itself. So they make this climb and they start making this run. They win the Big Ten in 1998. They lose in the Sweet 16 because, listen, The climb back home is what makes it fun for the universe. And you don't want to do it all at once, and you don't want to do it overnight, because once you get there, the fun is over. That's it. You're home. There's nowhere else to freaking go. That's it. You've done it. That's the end of the line. But what the universe wanted to do was savor the journey and enjoy the journey, because that is where all the magic is. The homecoming itself, the journey back home, is where all the juice is. It's not arriving at home, it's getting back home. So it dragged this out over the course of 3 seasons. In 1998, these guys won the Big Ten out of nowhere. Nobody saw this coming. They were picked to finish in the middle of the pack of the conference. No one thought this team was going to be anything. They go on the road and beat a phenomenal Purdue team in West Lafayette, Indiana. And then they win the conference. They go on to the Sweet 16. They lose to a stacked North Carolina team. Okay, step 1 toward home is achieved, but there's more steps to get. There's more joy to be had in the climb. Step 2, 1999 comes around. Okay, we're going to take that next step right now. And they struggle a bit out of the gate because, again, the universe wants to have a little bit of fun. The universe is a shitlord when you get right down to it. The universe wants to have a little fun. The universe wants to be a little mischievous on its journey back home. Otherwise, there's no game. It's not enjoyable. So 1999 comes around. And the first thing the universe does is say, you know what? We have this team now. People are noticing us. We won the championship the year before. Cool. Okay, great. Now what? Now we're expected to be good. So we got to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in here. And we're going to lose some games out of the gate we're expected to win. We're going to lose to Temple, and we're going to lose to some other teams. And people are going to be questioning, hey, wait a second now. Is this team even coming back? Is this team worth a shit? Or are they a fraud? Because nobody thought they were going to be good last year. Maybe it was smoke and mirrors. Maybe they weren't actually any good. Well, 99 rolls around. They do take a few hits early on. Then the Big Ten season starts. Like, okay, well, we'll get this straightened out for the Big Ten. What happens? Game 1 in the Big Ten. They go to Madison, Wisconsin, which is where the movie Back to School was filmed. If you haven't seen it, phenomenal. Highly recommend it. Hey, Jason, you don't lie to me. You lie to girls. Anyway, so they go to Madison, Wisconsin. First game. They lose 66-51 in a game that was even uglier than that, and the score wasn't even that close. Now the chatterboxes are everywhere. This team is bullshit, overrated. They're a fraud. And the universe is sitting back smiling ear to ear because it knows how the story ultimately ends, but it's enjoying this. It's enjoying the process of being beaten to its freaking knees so it can get back up and keep going forward. Because it knows through this team, it's going to realize itself. But it's going to be a journey and it's going to be a process to get there. So what happens? They go out and they win the next 15 games in a row in the Big Ten. They go 15-1 in the conference. They win the conference championship outright, and they bludgeon people along the way. Most of these games weren't even that close. A few were, but most weren't. I was a freshman at Michigan State at the time, and let me tell you, it was a magical winter. Magical winter when you're otherwise freezing your nuts off. It's magical. They sweep through the Big Ten tournament, and then they march all the way to the Final Four in St. Petersburg, Florida, where they play a loaded Duke team. It's a game they were not expected to win, which once again made the universe smile like the little shitlord that it is. All that is. Knowing full well this was going to be the end of the line for this season. But it got one step closer to home. It wanted to drag out the journey back home a little bit longer. It was having too much fun on the climb. It didn't want the climb to come to an end in 99 because then it would deprive it of the joy of what was going to happen in 2000. So we're all enjoying this rise, 98, and then 99, we go one level even higher. Now we lose in 99, and the student body was not happy about it. We burned East Lansing to the ground. I've got some great riot stories I'll talk about on another podcast, including a can of tear gas that flew right by my head, hit my buddy right in his head. That was hilarious, not going to lie. So that happens. Now, the universe is still trying to find its way back home, and it knows there's one more chapter to write in this story. 2000 comes around. We bring most of the team back from 99. We just went to the Final Four, won the Big Ten. Everyone said we were the third best team in the country. Now we're coming in this year. The expectation is we will be the best team in the country. This is our year, baby. This is it. It's all been building to this. Let's go. Well, our star, Mateen Cleaves, hurts himself right out of the gate. He gets injured right out of the freaking gate. We end up losing a bunch of games in the non-conference, including to Wright State. You want to talk about losing to teams no one's heard of? Wright State University in Ohio, we lose to them. Everyone once again is jumping off the bandwagon. They're going to blow it. It's not going to happen. We screwed it up. We had our chance last year. It's over. Well, we go into North Carolina, who had been our nemesis, who'd beaten us 2 years prior in the Sweet 16. And Mateen Cleaves, who's injured, is wearing this great Bill Cosby sweater. He's waving his towel. He's going nuts on the bench, jumping on one bad leg. And we bomb them out of their own gym. And we win. And it sets the stage for a Big Ten championship yet again. Third one in a row. Another Big Ten tournament championship. Second in a row. Another run to the Final Four. Second in a row. And this time, we got it done. We won the national freaking championship. We cut down the nets. The universe's journey back to itself was complete. We did it. We exhaled and we enjoyed it so much. We were the universe enjoying itself as Michigan State Spartans, as players, coaches, trainers, parents, fans, alums, students, all of us. We were all immersed in the joy of the universe completely finding itself again through this team. But like the universe, nothing lasts forever, except the universe itself. And that's the great paradox. Whatever story the universe creates, it will eventually end in order to create a new story. So it reaches the top. And the great question is, then what? Then what? So the universe, like it always does, sends things in cycles for the game to start all over again. And over the next 20 years, the game kept rebooting itself in Michigan State basketball. We'd go through a bit of a dip just to rise back up again, to find the joy of getting back to the top again. But we never got all the way back to the top. I think the universe had a taste of it and said, you know what? It's more fun to come close and to lose. It's more fun that way because then there's something to keep striving for. There's something to keep working for. There's some joy in the journey left to still uncover, which it couldn't do if you just win year after year after year after year, like UConn women's hoops did for a while. At some point, it wasn't even fun. If you're a UConn women's hoops fan back then, yeah, you're loving bludgeoning the shit out of people. That's its own kind of joy. But at some point, you almost want that one loss, that one year you don't get it done, just for the joy of finding your way back to the top again. And that was the great call of Michigan State basketball. So 2019 rolls around, had this great team led by this guy named Cassius Winston. We beat our rival Michigan 3 times and was a great Michigan team. We beat what people thought was an unstoppable Duke monster. Of course, led by a guy like Zion. You know, we're talking biblical shit over here. You got to have a guy named Zion that you beat. We beat him too, and Duke. Team that we barely ever beat to go to the Final Four. But we lost. It was a winnable Final Four. Should have been our second national title under Izzo. We blew it. We lost. Cool. Let's go back again in 2020. We have the team to do it. We go on a run at the end of the year. We're playing as well as anybody. A lot of people are picking us to do it. And then something happened in the world in the spring of 2020. Not going to bring it up here. Don't need this channel getting shut down. You remember what it was. Tournament was canceled. That was it. We thought, hey, that's okay. That's okay. The world will start back up again. Sports will come back again. Life will resume again. And when it happens, hey, we still have Tom Izzo running our program. We still have a bunch of great players. We're going to make another run. We're going to do it. The universe is going to find its way back home once again through this program. Well, the universe, once again, being a shitlord, said, you know what? I'm going to make it a little extra spicy this time around. And not only are we going to not be at our own standard, we're going to be way off of it. And not just for a year or two like it normally did during our program's run under Tom Izzo. We'd be off for a year or two, but then find our way back. They were going to do 1 year. They did. 2021 sucked. We got into the tournament by the skin of our teeth. 22 was supposed to be the bounce back year. Nothing of the kind. More mediocrity. 23, hey, this is it, baby. We're back. We're going to do it now. More mediocrity. Then 24 rolls around. And this was the great head fake. And 23, team wasn't that great, but they made a little run to the Sweet 16, which other programs would kill for. And for us, it was like, what are you going to do? What happened? We come in preseason top 5. Everyone's like, okay, we're back. We're back. We've had a little bit of a lull, but now we're going to come back. And that team was terrible. Terrible. Another team that barely made the tournament. Barely. It was awful in conference, awful in non-conference, just way below the standard of this university. So coming into this year, the thought was, we're done, man. We're done. We're going to be out in this wilderness forever. We're going to be like Florida State football. We're going to be like Nebraska football. We're going to be like Indiana basketball, a once proud and great brand that just falls in complete, total irrelevance. And the universe had us right where it wanted us, because that is when it's the most fun. When you're right at that moment when you start saying, it's never going to happen for me. It's never going to happen again. It's like that moment in the movie when you're utterly convinced the best is behind you and your dreams are not going to come true. Like in the movie Rudy, when he got his last rejection from Notre Dame and he's in the church and he's praying and he thinks it's over. It's just over. Or later in the movie when he wasn't on the dress list for the last game, he thinks, what am I doing here? What was the point? The whole thing was for nothing. That is when the universe, like the good shit Lord that it is, starts smiling ear to ear and says, now the fun's about to begin. Right when you think you're never going to find your way back home, back to source, now is when I'm going to have some fun. Now, when all feels lost, now we're going to start cooking. And that's what happened with this year's team. There wasn't one All-American on this year's roster. There wasn't even one player who people thought was going to make first team Big Ten or second team Big Ten or hell, even third team Big Ten. It's a collection of nobodies. No offense to any of these guys. But there was no love. There was no juice for this team coming in. They said, hey, it's going to be another middle of the pack finish for Tom Izzo. What else is new? This is the new reality of our program. This is what we've become. This is what it's going to be now. Deal with it. They lose a couple of games early on, as usual. They're not ranked. They're nowhere near the rankings. So people are saying it's another mediocre year. They're going to just barely get into the tournament. And that's the new standard of Tom Izzo, is just getting into the tournament. That's it. But the days of winning anything, competing for anything meaningful, hanging any banners in the Breslin Center, that's over, man. We've experienced it. We've done it. It's over. It's over. That's it. Get out. Well, what happened? They start winning. They start winning a lot. They win 9 in a row to start the Big Ten. 9-0. But then, once again, the universe doing what it does said, no, we can't make it too good too quick. I'm enjoying this too much. I'm enjoying it. We need a little bit of adversity. We need something to push through, to fight through. You can't grow a muscle unless you have some good resistance in the weights. All right. We go out to LA, get our asses kicked 2 games in a row, USC and UCLA. We come home, Oregon whoops our ass for the first half. You need everything in the bag to pull that one out in the second half. And then Indiana comes in, an Indiana team that probably won't even make the tournament, hands us our own ass on our home floor. And at that point, we've lost 3 out of 4. And the narrative is, well, there it is. They're exactly what we thought they would be. Frauds. They're frauds. They're no different than the last 4 years of this garbage, mediocre product. Tom Izzo's never going to hang another banner again. Those days are over. And once again, the universe is grinning ear to ear, saying, I got you right where I want you. Saddle up. Let's have some fun. And we go out and we win against a murderer's row, a tougher 5-game slate than any other team in the country has had to go through, except maybe some of those teams in the SEC. I'll give them their props. They've been awesome this year. But we had a hell of a 5-game run. Hell of a run. Went on the road to beat an Illinois team that was expected to hand us our ass in a revenge game. Came home to beat a Purdue team that has absolutely run this conference and had our number the last few years. Then we have a couple of amazing road wins. Buzzer beater against Maryland. Beat the shit out of Michigan. Those didn't happen in that sequential order, but they all happened as part of this run. Come home, face a phenomenal Wisconsin team. Take it to them too. No one expected a 5-0 record out of this run. People said we'd be happy with 3-2. Thrilled with 3-2. Probably expecting 2-3. Shit, maybe 1-4. 5-0. 5-0. And in the process, set ourselves up to win the Big Ten championship. Going into Iowa tonight, we could win it outright. No one expected this coming into the year. Nobody thought this team had a chance. But the universe wanted to come back and experience itself once again at the apex of what it does as a basketball team. So once again, it sent itself out into the wilderness for the joy of finding its way back home. And this season, the joy of finding its way back home through Michigan State basketball has been magical because nobody expected it. So in your own life right now, if you are scuffling through something that you feel is just utterly insurmountable, you feel like you're never going to get back to the top of the mountain. You're not even going to sniff it. The universe has got you right where it wants you. This is the fun part. This is the good shit. This is intentional. The universe wants the joy of finding its way back to its own light through you, which is why it sent you out into whatever wilderness you're facing right now. No matter how bad it is, the idea is for you to find your way back to the light through this struggle, because that's the joy. That's the purpose of all of creation. That's why the universe itself exists. Didn't have to exist. It does for the joy of just coming home. And that's what it's doing this year through Michigan State basketball. That's what the universe is doing. The universe is finding itself again through Michigan State basketball. Now, what tricks does it have up its sleeve as we head into the Big Ten tournament, as we head into March Madness? Who the hell knows? But that's the fun. I don't want to know how this ends right now. As a fractal of the universe, and you are too, hate to break it to you, I don't want to know how the story ends, because the fun is not knowing how the story ends. The fun is living this character that has this limited human perspective that does not know how the story ends. That's the beauty of it, my friends. Now, the best part of this entire journey is that the best is yet to come no matter what happens. If we have another, God forbid, Middle Tennessee State situation in the dance where a 2 seed lose to a 15, that's just the universe setting itself up for a great run next year with this core coming back to overcome that. Because that's where all the juice really, truly is. The same way it did with Purdue when they lost in the 16-1 game. They came back the next year, dominated the Big Ten, went all the way to the national title game. It's what they did with Virginia in 2019. Previous year, losing as a 16-1, and the only team to ever lose that before Purdue. They were the only one to ever lose to a 16. They came back the next year, won the national championship. The universe loves to exile itself all the way out into rubble to bring itself all the way back to wholeness. It's what it did with Germany after World War II, Japan after World War II, bombed the smithereens, bombed the high hell, only to find itself coming all the way back to itself with the most modern, forward economies in the entire world outside of the US. I mean, think about that. Think about the journey all the way out here to come all the way back. And that's what the last few years of Michigan State basketball have been. Mediocrity to come all the way out here, to come all the way back to dominance and freaking banners and championships. So now we're in the joy. It's the fun part of the movie, man. This is the fun part, so enjoy it. Savor it. You Michigan State fans out there, this is the good shit. This is the good shit, my friends. Enjoy every single minute of it. Go green.